Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to another reading wrap-up. I am fresh off of Dewey's 24-hour readathon. I haven't had enough sleep, so I'm a bit loopy today. Nothing is new about that. Welcome to Sunday morning filming. I'm going to talk about the things I read during Dewey's first because they are fresh in my mind, and then I will talk about the other things that I've read over the past couple of weeks. I read 3 volumes of manga and 1 nonfiction book during Dewey's. I will start with the nonfiction book, which is Some Assembly Required by Neil Shubin. I listened to this on audiobook and quite enjoyed it, though I must admit straight away, I think I wasn't paying close enough attention. I don't exactly know what the thesis of this book was supposed to be or like the organizing principle. I just was mostly enjoying it because Shubin is talking about things like weird things people have noticed in the fossil record and how advances in understanding DNA and genetics and heredity have helped explain certain evolutionary leaps and quirks and stuff. I really liked it. But then again, I am primed to enjoy pretty much anything that talks about genetics. It passed 2 of my bars. This is maybe a little bit silly, but I've read enough books on genetics now to have noticed a pattern between not just books on genetics, but books on scientific topics in general. A lot of them never mention women, and in particular, the history of genetics is mostly focused on a few great men, and if any woman is ever mentioned, it's usually just Rosalind Franklin in passing. So these days, when I'm reading a book that's new to me on genetics, I have 2 questions. Does it actually talk about the discoveries of major female scientists in the field? And 2, does the author ever actually talk to or interview any modern day female experts in these topics? And I'm very happy to say that Some Assembly Required passes both of these. I was really pleased that Shubin actually talks about the discoveries of people like Barbara McClintock. Not only does he discuss like what they researched, but he talks about how basically they've been vindicated and been proven right by really recent discoveries and stuff, and it was great. I really enjoyed that. So yes, this was quite a good book. I'm glad that I stumbled across it and read it. Next is the manga that I read for Dewey's 24-hour readathon. I read the first 2 volumes of Our Dreams at Dusk by Yuhki Kamatani. This is a contemporary manga series that follows a group of LGBTQ people in modern day Japan. It's mainly focused on this main character, a high school boy named Tatsuya. He has been recently outed as gay at school, and he kind of feels like his life is over. He randomly meets this strange woman who everyone just calls someone-san, and she introduces him to this group of pretty eclectic people, many of whom are gay, lesbian, trans, and going through some of the same experiences that Tatsuya is. And I really liked it. I felt like volume 1 was like really kind of rushed in introducing a bunch of people, but not in like specifically like who people were. I came away from it intrigued, but feeling like it was just a bit rushed. And then volume 2 I liked even more. This one focuses a lot on this other character, Mizora, I think is his name, who dresses in girls' clothing at the kind of club that all these people go to. And basically like his experience, is he trans? What is his identity? He doesn't really want to be labeled necessarily, and how do his friends react to that and help him with that? So yeah, I enjoyed both of these quite a bit. I find it interesting to read this mainly because it's about queer people in Japan, like in modern day Japanese society, and that is a really different experience from like being gay in an American high school, for example. This is also own voices. I didn't realize this until after I had read these, but Yuhki Kamatani is non-binary. I think they identify as X gender, but basically like the trans experiences in this are pretty much own voices, so I thought that was really interesting as well. I've never read a manga series that was own voices like this about trans experiences. So definitely going to continue with this one. Then the most fun thing that I read yesterday for the readathon was Spy Family Volume 1 by Tatsuya Endo. This one I've been trying to get my hands on for a couple of months since Araya recommended it to me. Thank you, Raya. It was just as good as you said it was going to be. The premise of this is the best part. It's about this spy codenamed Twilight who has to get himself a family right away for an undercover mission. So he gets himself a fake wife and a fake child, and he doesn't know what to do with either of them. Unbeknownst to him, his fake daughter is a telepath and his fake wife is an assassin. His fake wife doesn't know that he's a spy, and both of them don't know that their fake daughter can read their thoughts and knows everything that they're doing. Now, the little girl in the story, Anya, she's really young. She's like 5 or 6 years old. So she's just old enough to kind of understand what's going on, and she doesn't want her family to be broken up because she doesn't want to be sent to another foster family. But she's not old enough to really understand everything that she hears in the adults' thoughts either. So it just hijinks ensue, and most of this first volume is about Twilight getting the fake family and then trying to get the daughter into this special academy, which has very strict like entrance examinations and stuff. Yeah, it was just really enjoyable. Pretty much the only thing that I'm not super keen on with this series is the geopolitical world building. I think it is intentionally based on like post-World War II Germany, including the fact that the main city, at least in the English translation here, is called Berlin. And it just has that kind of Western Cold War feel to it. I don't like that very much. However, I can see why it is this way because it presents a ton of opportunities for spying and assassinations and undercover operations. So another one I will definitely be continuing. Now for the other things that I read in the past 2 weeks or so. First up, I listened to the audiobook of So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. This is a book about like anti-racist behavior, how to talk about racial issues, things like that. This was not entirely new to me. I thought it was good, but not revelatory. What I most liked about this is Oluo's approach to how you have conversations about these things. I think a lot of her advice boils down to educate yourself first, keep your cool, don't get overly emotional, upset, or defensive about things, and like practice your talking points beforehand. But what she touches on are a lot of topics within, you know, anti-racist behavior and stuff, like how do you talk about affirmative action? What really is that? What is intersectionality? How do you analyze your own privilege? What are racial microaggressions? That sort of thing. So I liked the approach here. I liked what Oluo had to say, but mostly this was kind of reinforcing what I'd already heard from other books. I did like her voice and her humor and just her writing style a lot, and I think I will read other books by her in the future, whatever they may happen to be about. Another nonfiction book, which is completely different from the other two I've talked about today, The Golden Thread: How Fabric Changed History by Kassia St. Clair. I went out and bought this book as soon as I realized that it existed. I read St. Clair's previous book, The Secret History, or The Secret Lives of Color, a couple of years ago. I actually gave it to my mom as a gift, and my mom really liked it, and then I stole it back so I could read it. And my mom and I were both quite excited about this particular book, which is about the history of textiles and how important fabric and textiles and certain fibers and stuff have been throughout history. This is kind of organized in the same way as The Secret Lives of Color, in that it's kind of vignette based. Basically each chapter is on a specific fiber or a specific type of fabric and dives into like when it was very popular or a particular moment in history or a particular civilization where it was really important. And it was just really interesting. I'm very much interested in textiles and fibers and stuff right now. And this hit the perfect spot. It definitely uncovers how incredibly important and foundational textiles were in everyday life, but also for entire civilizations, for entire economies. And in the modern day, we've really lost sight of that. We don't really understand how important textiles were in the past, because today our clothing industry, our textile manufacturing industry is so cheapened and mechanized, and so much of it is not about natural fibers anymore. It's just about like plastic pretty much. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun to read this. I really can't speak to like how well researched it is. A bunch of the stuff in here kind of rang true to me, but I don't know enough about the field or about historical dates and stuff to have fact checked any of this stuff. I do feel like because it's so focused on a specific fabric at a specific time and place, it's not actually this really cohesive history of textiles around the world. I mean, you could probably write 10 books about that. She definitely is like picking and choosing specific things, and every major thing like silk and linen and wool gets its own topic, but it's not like we're gonna visit wool in every major civilization over 400 years around the globe, that sort of thing. So a little bit selective perhaps, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And there's at least one other book on this topic, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, that I also want to read, so more of this in my future. The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is the fourth and final Wayfarers novel, and I feel so strange saying this about a book in the series, but I have very little to say about this. I was going to try to do a standalone review of it, and I just couldn't come up with quite enough thoughts to make it worthwhile. It's not to say that this is a bad book by any means. What I really liked about this book is that it's so very much about a group of incredibly different people choosing to be kind to each other, like consciously choosing to be nice, to be understanding, to try to get along in a difficult situation. And while I was reading it, that's just exactly what I needed. It was like a balm on my soul or something. Sometimes you just need to read about people consciously choosing to be nice. So the premise of this one, without going into the entire series, this is relatively standalone, but basically it's on this planet which is devoid of any sort of life. It's just this way station. It's where a whole bunch of like intergalactic highways converge, and a bunch of travelers from completely different species end up stranded at this highway stop. They're supposed to be there for like one night, but like all the communications around the planet breaks down and they have to stay there for a couple of days, and they just have to hang out and help each other and deal with things, and all of them have their own histories, and they like, where are they going? Where did they come from? They learn about each other. It was lovely. And I didn't pull much more out of it than that. I liked it. It's not my favorite in this series. Someday I will go back and reread Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and see if it lives up to my fantastic memories of reading that a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's definitely a like feel-good installment in the series, and worth it for that if you like reading these books for the feels and the kindness and the kind of found family aspects. Next, I read volume 10 of The Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe. This is currently my favorite manga series, and this is the penultimate volume. I'm both excited and worried about that because I don't know how some things are going to be clarified and wrapped up in just one more volume. I found the plot, the premise of this series to be very interesting. I also love the main characters and the artwork, but I am still a little bit confused about what exactly has been happening with the souls. I won't say anything more than that for fear of spoiling things, but I'm really hoping that the final volume comes through and just gives a clearer explanation of some things. Aside from that, this particular volume, no spoilers, it does mostly involve explaining teachers' past, which was good, but also very sad. And now I have to wait until like, I don't know, November for the final bit of the series. So it's been so good so far. I'm hoping it goes out with a bang. And lastly, Expiration Date by Tim Powers. I buddy read this with Joe from Final Blow Joe. This is actually the second book in this kind of loose thematic series. We read the first book, Last Call, I think in January or February, I can't remember now. And this one was so much better than the first book. I do actually feel like maybe I should do a separate review of this one because I could talk at length about what worked in Expiration Date versus those same things that didn't work in Last Call for me. I don't know. This is pretty much like 1990s urban fantasy that focuses on like the occult, spiritualism, ghosts, gambling, that sort of thing. I think the entire series is basically this massive retelling of the Fisher King myth, but focused on like Los Angeles and Las Vegas and like the cultures of those places, the glitz, the gambling, the drinking, etc. Expiration Date in particular focuses on this young boy named Cootie who accidentally becomes possessed by the ghost of Thomas Edison, and a whole bunch of people are after Cootie because in this world, people are like addicted to snorting and consuming the ghosts, basically. It's a little bit strange, but it actually works. So yeah, there are a bunch of ghosts of really important historical people in the story, and various people are trying to get those ghosts and consume them in their quest for, I don't know, feeding their addictions and becoming powerful. There you go. It is relatively violent. There's a lot of on-page drinking and alcoholism, and unlike the first book, this one had way more compelling characters. I cared about people's relationships and what they were actually doing, and it resolves the situation as well, and I was just satisfied with it. There you go. Maybe I'll talk more about it in the future if I can gather together some more thoughts on it. And that is pretty much it. Those are all the things that I've read in the past couple of weeks. Do let me know if you have also read any of these. If you have any thoughts about them, please leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back to talk to you again soon about more books. And until then, bye.